Learners, welcome to Ebsu Learning Management System. This is an instructional video practical on deviance and social control. My name is Dr. Eze Obonia Eze. Today we shall be looking at the course titled Deviance and Social Control. These are our expected learning outcomes. At the end of this course, we are expected to be able to explain what is deviance. I would also expect that we will be able to discuss the nature and the social functions of deviance. We are also going to be able to compare several theoretical explanations of deviance. So, what is deviance? If you notice, some people break the law some of the time, others break the law most of the time. As you can see, we have a picture of somebody who is dragging somebody by force. One may consider that as a deviance. Meanwhile, there are people who normally would usually break the law, and these people do this all the time. And these are the people that we consider as deviants in our society. Deviant behavior are behaviors that are not conforming. The reason is a person cannot be a deviant and be a conformist at the same time. So deviant behaviors are behaviors that violate significant social norms in the society. Every society has norms and rules that regulates and directs what's appropriate behavior for the members of the society. So violation of those social norms is considered as a deviance. So if a person is not a deviant, the person is a conformist. So people who obey the law of the society are called conformists, which means they conform to social norms of the society. What is the nature of deviance? There is a tendency for people to violate the law due to the fact that, of course, we have several laws that govern human existence. So at some point in our lives, we must have done something that is considered as deviance. Deviance, again, here is subject to time and place. The reason is whatever constitutes deviance today in a particular place may not be deviance again at other times. So deviance is subject to time and place. Deviance being subject to time means that time can change what was deviance to become a conforming behavior. The same thing also happens for places. Some places may have behaviors that are considered conforming, while in other places, these behaviors that are considered conforming in the society A is now considered rather as a deviant behavior, which means the place has changed. As places change, so also does the deviant behavior change. For us to understand deviance more, we need to know, we need to be aware that the societies actually define what should constitute deviance. There's nothing that is generally deviant sometimes, but societies determine or societies define what would be considered as deviance for them. So that implies that every society has got what is deviant for them, which may be different from what is obtainable in other societies. How do we identify deviance? How do we identify what is deviance? For people to be seen as deviants, others would have to observe them as committing an act that is deviant act. And of course, this is a process we refer to as labeling. People would normally see others as engaging in an activity like in this picture. It appears that someone is trying to do some illicit sort of transaction. So if people observe them doing things that are not conforming or that are not within the confines of the law or the social norm of the society, they are considered as deviant. So we can identify deviant by observing people engaging in deviant acts. So it's about labeling really, because labeling is about defining or explaining what, or giving a tag as to behaviors that may be considered as deviant. Labeling has two basic components. So if we have stigma, if we stigmatize people, if we have stigma on others, or if we stigmatize others, we may see that as what? Deviance. So deviance comes when we stigmatize others for a behavior they engage in which does not conform to societal norms. Stigma is something that is very disgraceful because nobody wants to be stigmatized. When people stigmatize others, they sort of make them look a bit sort of different. And that difference means that they are not doing something which is societally acceptable. So people sometimes conform for reasons of not being stigmatized. Although deviance is considered as a act that violates the law, and people may want to look at deviance from a perspective of something that is totally negative. However, Emile Durkheim, who was a great sociologist, has proposed that there are some functions that deviants have in the society. And we're going to look at these functions that deviants have in our society. And the first of them is that deviants tend to unite people by differentiating people who are non-deviants from those who are deviants. So if you and I, for instance, are conformists, if we obey and conform to the laws of the society, and if we conform to the social norms of the society, we tend to be united. So we tend to know ourselves as people who are united. Of course, for those who violate the law as well, who are considered as deviants, deviant behavior may also make them unite as people who violate the law. Deviance normally clarify norms. It defines and creates boundaries between conforming behavior as well as non-conforming behavior. So people who conform see themselves as being in a particular group of people who are conformists. So like the picture here says, conformity, is the one who is different that gets left out in the code. So if you are different, you'll be left out in the code. So it will unite the rest of them who are not deviants. So deviance creates opportunity for people to get employment. So it's not totally negative like we see them. The way you see judges, what do you think judges do? Their duty is to interpret and prosecute offenders. So people who deviate from the norms are people who are violating the societal laws, who will be judged and who will be possibly prosecuted by the judges or the juries. So if there were no deviants, maybe the judges wouldn't have job to do. What's your take on that? The police as well would have to, work because there are deviants. If there are no deviants, police doesn't have much work to do. The correctional services are also there because there are deviants who needs to be corrected. Of course, the works of journalists, they have to go there, get information, and inform you and I. So all of this means that deviants sort of, have some role in society. So without deviation, look at this image. Now the image suggests here that without deviation from the norm, progress is not possible. This is still an additive or an addition to what we were discussing earlier on the functions of a deviant. So deviance plays very important functions in our society because it makes us to understand progress, and we can progress if people deviate. So we know what is deviant, and then we know how to progress to what is conforming. There are positive and negative deviance. The positive deviance will be seen as behaviors that are over-conforming to the expectations of people. Now, examples of positive deviance are people who use steroids to build their body, which makes them conform, more than expected. Ideally, the society has expectations for how people should look. Sometimes people look all built up and all sexy, sort of. people see them as, as very attractive and the rest of them. So, but if people now begin to use steroids, and just look at the image by the right, so steroids make people to have extra ripped muscles. Now, this is rather over conforming to what probably is expected of keeping fit or looking fit. Other aspects of deviance which we will look at, and which is also considered as a positive deviance. Anorexia is an eating disorder, of course, which is caused by a person who wants to have the best of figures, but eventually end up looking very skinny and, of course, less attractive. So if you see the picture here on the right, this is an example of an anorexia sort of personality, a person who wants to conform or who wants to eventually make some positive impression about their physical outlook, but eventually does that almost more than required, making them look a bit less attractive. Negative deviance, on the other hand, will have impact not just on the individual, but also on others around the individual. For instance, people who are obsessed are considered as negative deviant because obesity on its own is seen as underconforming. Now you have these kids here on the right, they are considered as obese, and that also constitutes negative deviance. Well, obesity has some negative effects. It leads to hypertension, liver disease, reproductive disorders, heart disease, mood disorder, cancer risk, dyslipidemia, and of course, it's not positive sort of deviance because not just the individual. Remember, earlier on, we would have understood that positive deviance sometimes does not affect others, but the impact could be felt more by the individual. However, for negative deviance, there is some argument that it might affect others, especially because of the risks that are involved. There are some theoretical explanations to understanding deviant behavior, and one of them is the structural strength theory by Robert K. Merton. K. Merton focused on the societal goals and the means of achieving them. Merton believed that some people does not want to conform to the societal goals, but they believe that the societal goal exists. And he had four groups of individuals: the innovators, the retreaters, and the rebels, as well as the other groups. So these groups of individuals are obeying the laws of the society differently. Some want to obey the law. Some agree that the law is good. However, they don't want to agree on the means of achieving or obeying the laws. There are other theories, for instance, that of Travis History on the social control theory. He believed in social bonds and attachment, that people conform on the basis of the attachment they have with relative others. So we sometimes do not deviate from the norm because we know that there are expectations from families and relatives and all of that. The shaming theory by John Brentworth looked at disintegrative and reintegrative shaming. So people tend to conform to avoid being shamed. Some shaming may be disintegrative, while others may be reintegrative. However, reintegrative shaming would point out to the fact that the individual has deviated. However, they will be forgiven, and it will make them not to deviate again. And then there is the one by Edwin Sutherland, the differential association theory, which believe that people deviate due to the deviant acts that they are exposed to, the people they interact with. Now, look at the picture on the right. This would be shaming, but the shaming theory would say, this one says, I am a person that stole. So if a person has to carry this placard, they will be stigmatized. So you cannot hang out with negative people and expect to live a positive life. So all of this suggests, all of this theory has some explanations that deviant behavior occur as a result of conflict within the society, individuals conforming because they want to conform and not disappoint those who have trust in them. And of course, this integrative shaming, which is not something anybody wants to experience. So all of this and many more are some of the theoretical explanations to deviance. Having said this, I am sure we have been able to achieve some of the things we have set out to achieve in this course, Deviance and Social Control. Thank you for your time.